Why failure is feedback. Hi, my name is Luke Vu, PhD. I'm a clinical psychologist, mental health expert helping young men overcome digital addiction, depression, and anxiety. In my practice, when people come through the door, it's usually because they've tried to stop something and have failed. In this video, I want to talk about what people usually misunderstand or miss altogether on their journey of trying to quit anything. Quick disclaimer, I'm not your psych, this isn't treatment, and if you need a psychologist, you should find a registered, qualified psych in your area. So what's quitting really like? The key to quitting a habit successfully is all about mindset, specifically learning to shift from a failure mindset to a feedback mindset. Something that always comes up in my videos is the importance of time. To successfully quit, you need time to figure yourself out and learn how to manage your urges. And like any learning process, we learn the most from our mistakes. This mindset of viewing setbacks as lessons rather than viewing them as shameful, complete, and absolute failures is vital for progress. Quitting is a difficult task as it is, so make it easier for yourself and stop beating yourself up every chance you get. If you beat yourself up, you are less likely to succeed and more likely to return to old patterns. The process of quitting is the opposite of ripping off a band-aid. It is low levels of discomfort over a long period of time where mistakes or lapses are to be expected. Lapses are temporary setbacks and they do not make you weak. In fact, learning from them will make you stronger. Think of them as critical insight into your patterns or where you can strategize methods on altering your behavior in a deliberate way. For example, someone with a porn problem might experience a lapse, and that results in them installing porn blockers as a strategy to prevent future lapses. So what is the ideal mindset for trying to quit something addictive? Always think of the long game, the long term. So using porn as an example, imagine having a non-porn life that is more fulfilling than your life with porn in it. Easier said than done, right? I hear you. Well, to even attempt at reaching that goal, it means you are required to identify your needs and meeting them in healthier ways. The problem that you're trying to quit, whether it be porn, alcohol, or whatever it is, ask yourself, what is it a crutch for? You really have to look deep and figure out what you're using it for. For example, a reason could be a mismatch in your libido with your partner, and if that problem could be identified, more positive and progressive steps forward could potentially be taken without having to use porn as a crutch. Secondly, not punishing yourself for mistakes when you're learning something new is a universal concept. And in this way, quitting is no different. So remember that every mistake you're learning something new about yourself. With time and focus, you'll slowly stop making the same mistakes. Last but not least, be kind to yourself. Sometimes we fall short of our goals, but it doesn't mean that we won't ever get there. Sometimes we have to be patient for other changes to occur and needs to be addressed, such as relationship improvement or discovering a new hobby or even changing your job. Some things just take time. Does going cold turkey actually work? Going cold turkey is going to be brutal on your urge levels as you go from normal engagement to zero in a snap. It's efficient and yes, it works for some people, but not for everyone. It requires a certain level of self-mastery, and because of that, there's an unhelpful level of ego involved. Does getting better or becoming healthy need to be flashy and glorious? Just get better, man. This sort of initial mindset, whether apparent or subconscious, usually lends to difficulty in reframing failure as feedback. And going cold turkey also uses the streak system, which has its own issues, such as getting too obsessed with the numerical value of your streak. Sometimes we get so caught up about that streak that when lapses happen, and they will happen, we feel like it is a much more significant failure than it really is. You missed the big macro picture of your relative progress. Because in the streak system, when the streak resets to zero, well, what else can you feel other than all that hard work was for nothing? Compare that to a phased reduction strategy, where your small victories are marked by milestones which are easier to recall mentally. Another issue is that the strategy is too dependent and exhausting on your willpower. Streak-based abstinence tends to focus on willpower tools. We sometimes fall into the trap of not planning for lapses because mistakes are simply not allowed. I've had patients show disinterest in investing in a plan B. What's the point of a lapse plan if I'm never going to drink or use porn or gamble again? Confidence is always key until it gets in the way. So going cold turkey works, but it's definitely not for everyone, and it's definitely not the only strategy you should try. So let's talk about the alternative. So what is a lapse plan? A lapse plan helps you respond to a lapse and prevents a relapse. This means we carefully think about what actions need to be executed in order to break the circuit and reduce the chances of you reinforcing that pattern. It also functions to give you some temporary mental relief and examine what factors led to the lapse in the first place. So using gambling as an example, a lapse plan might involve cutting up your credit card or leaving it with someone that you trust, calling your support person or partner. It can also involve scheduling a visit to your psychologist or support group. Once the plan is in place, you can sit down and examine what led to the lapse. Was it stress? Was it visual cues? Or was it premeditated? It's an autopilot system that prevents further damage as you assess and understand the cause of your lapse. So visualize and practice how to cope with that situation. Sit down and imagine yourself going through the steps. Keep it in mind for this next part. How does one create a lapse plan? Write down on a sheet of paper a step-by-step protocol. Now take a deep breath. Who would you call? Tell that person in advance how to support you should you contact them. Write down what actions you need to do immediately to minimize further damage and break the circuit. So this could be blocking or cutting up your card if you have a gambling problem, or disabling your internet connection momentarily if you have a porn problem. Deal and address the negative emotions that may have contributed to the lapse. As best you can, do not compartmentalize and build up these negative emotions. Re-engage with treatment by booking an appointment with your psychologist or support group and make your support person aware of this. Now take a deep breath. You've averted a relapse. Reflect on the lapse and strategize or improve your strategies for when these lapse triggers appear again, and stay on track. Remember, failure is feedback. There's no learning without mistakes. I really hope you found this useful. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I'm Luke Vu. Be kind, be you. Catch you next time.